from the makers of the original airplane, not the Wright brothers. We are the Spy-Fi guys, and this is Top Secret. Welcome to the Spy-Fi guys, where we cover spy facts, spy fiction, and everything in between. I'm Christian.
And I'm Zach.
And today we are covering Top Secret.
Yes, I was very excited to do this movie.
Have you seen this before?
No, I had not seen it before.
All right, okay.
But I had seen a YouTube review of it a few months ago where they told me some behind-the-scenes info, and the guys who did it really liked it.
Okay, all right.
So as the tagline mentioned, this was created by Jim Abraham and...
the Zuckers.
Right, who have done Airplane, but they have also done The Naked Gun. Those are and Hot Shots, I believe.
Yes, and probably Hot Shots Part 2.
Presumably, yes. And yes. I love all of those movies.
Mm-hmm.
So expectations for this one were high.
Small disclaimer: I've seen both Hot Shots and Hot Shots Part 2, but I don't think I've actually seen any of the Airplane movies, and I've only seen Naked Gun 33 1/3.
Well, most people would say that the original Airplane is a must-watch.
Mm-hmm, I know, it's on my list.
And The Naked Gun is very good,
I
think. So I was expecting a lot from this movie, as I said, but sort of like other directors is they have to ramp up. So because this is the first movie that they made together, I was sort of expecting that it was going to be a little rougher around the edges.
Mm-hmm.
Some of friends and I have been doing Wes Anderson movies where we watch all the Wes Anderson movies in order, and Wes Anderson was not birthed Wes Anderson. And you can see hints in his early movies of what would become his style in later movies.
Okay.
And in this case, that was absolutely true.
All right, so shall we start with the IMDb movie synopsis?
Sure.
All right, so we've got parody of World War II spy movies in which an American rock and roll singer becomes involved in a resistance plot to rescue a scientist imprisoned in East Germany. So right off the bat,
right.
What time period is this set in?
Well, they referenced the Jimmy Carter administration.
Yeah, but I mean, okay, and it's clearly post World War II because it's East Germany and West Germany, but the East German uniforms are straight up Nazi uniforms.
Right. I think that this movie is supposed to be set in 1984, which is when the movie came out.
All right.
And they just dress like Nazis because it's a parody of World War II movies.
All right. For the first 20 minutes, I'm like, wait, what time? Where? I'm trying not to just, because it's a comedy, so I'm not trying to, put it too much on, and it's clearly a parody, so I'm not trying to put it too much to the logic filter, but just in general, it's like, wait, I just need to get a frame of reference for where we are.
Well, the very first opening scene is the title credit says East Germany, and then we have a spy on a train fighting a Nazi soldier.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, wait, do they maybe mean the east part of Germany?
That's what I was thinking, but no,
Germany?
It's literally East Germany, because you see later a map.
Right.
Yeah, so there's two men fighting on top of a train. One of them, is a British spy, and the other is, we'll just say a German, because I mean, yes, they're dressed in Nazi uniforms, but it's an East German soldier.
So suffice to say that East German soldiers then did not dress like the Nazis.
No, yes.
All right, I didn't feel like the need to look it up.
Oh, and another thing I want to talk about straight off is that there are so many sight gags in this movie that we're not going to be able to cover all of them.
Which, of course, is classic Zuckers and Abraham.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, this movie had less than Airplane does.
Mm-hmm.
But you're right that we would be here all day if we tried to talk about them all.
So we might not mention your favorite sight gag, or we may have even missed it when we watch it because we need to watch. I definitely need to watch it again just to try to catch every single sight gag.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so just as a general disclaimer for that.
So the British spy in the trench coat is played by Omar Sharif, who was the lead in Dr. Zhivago. And he was apparently some major character in Lawrence of Arabia. Mm-hmm. So he's a legit actor. in a sort of almost a glorified cameo, you might say, in this movie. So he's fighting German soldiers. and there's one big tough German soldier who stands up, and then Omar sees a bridge coming, and we expect it to be the Indiana Jones thing where he ducks down and then the bridge kills. I think they also do it in Speed where the upcoming bridge kills the bad guy.
Spoilers for Speed. But no, instead the German soldier the bridge breaks on the German soldier, and so the German soldier is just still there.
So of course this is the foundation of comedy, is expectation versus reality. But Omar then just jumps off the train and gets away.
Yep.
Very, very easily.
And next we go to East German High Command, which I like. I think it was either on their stationery or on the door in front. It says, "Better government through intimidation."
Yeah, oppression is hilarious when you're not the one living under it.
So there's a note, there's a memo or some sort of kind of message that says that the British secret agent escaped. There's a nice big stamp that says, "Find him and kill him."
Yep.
And so the East Germans are going to are having this big cultural festival to disguise what their true plans are. And so one of the things they're going to do is they're going to invite a bunch of people. And so they're going to invite, I don't remember who
Nick Rivers.
But they were trying to invite Leonard Bernstein.
Oh, yes, they were.
Who was the writer writer of West Side Story.
Oh, is that why they wanted him?
No, but I'm just in terms of a reference for who Leonard Bernstein is.
Okay. I thought you were going to say, in It's the End of the World as We Know It, they go, Leonard Bernstein. No?
Let's see. No.
I mean, he's a composer, right?
So he's West Side Story, Peter Pan, Candide, Wonderful Town, On the Waterfront. Great composer.
Right, so instead they get Nick Rivers who's a teen idol. And that leads us into our opening credits.
Yeah, so they put on a record of one of Nick Rivers' songs, and it's basically just a full-on parody of Surfing USA, but with guns.
That's right. Well, it's specifically called Skeet USA or Skeetin' USA. It's about skeet shooting.
Yeah, and so we have a bunch of people on surfboards with shotguns, and they're doing skeet shooting.
Yes. And IMDb mentions this,
okay.
But the YouTube review I got as well, is that not only is this movie a parody of World War II spy movies, but it's also a parody of Elvis movies.
Yes. Yeah, so back in the day, there were all these, movies about Elvis going off and doing, getting caught up in some sort of scheme.
Right.
Yeah.
The most famous, I think, is GI Blues, named after a record of the same. Have you seen any Elvis movies?
I have not. I don't think I have, actually. About it.
They've been pretty much forgotten, I feel.
It's a shame.
Well, I haven't seen any Elvis movies, but I have seen Beatles movies, and those are great.
I've seen one of them, but I can't remember which one it was, whether it was Hard Day's Night or the other one.
Help?
Anyways, yeah, or Help. Yeah, I don't remember which one it was. It's been a long time since I've seen it. But moving on.
The opening credits goes over this whole Skeetin' USA thing. There's a joke where a surfer on a surfboard will fall off and their gun will fire.
And something will fall out of the air.
Yes, which is, misfires and gun safety is hilarious. But my thing about the scene, though, is that the joke goes on too long. And it wasn't really that funny to begin with. The
entire credit scene.
Right.
And there's also some, cut in between, there's, movie posters or billboard signs with Nick Rivers, including one I liked is Nick Rivers and Linda Ronstadt and, time permitting, Frank Sinatra.
Yes. And then we also see how he's at the top of the charts with other songs like Skeet City, other songs by the Beach Boys, like Skeet City, yes.
Yeah, but after the end of the credits scene, we get Nick Rivers on a train. He's learning German from a tape. And I like this gag where he's also painting whatever he sees outside his window, and it's all just a blur because he's going so fast.
Yes, that was funny. I like that. And meanwhile, his buddy Martin is reading a newspaper called The Daily Oppressor.
Not just his buddy, but his agent or his manager. Yeah.
Yes. So they explain that they're coming to East Germany. And Nick says, I've been learning German. Like what? And he says in German, is your daughter 18? I think that joke may have gone over better in 1984 than it does in 2020 or 2021.
Yeah. And so they arrive at the East German checkpoint station. and some German soldiers come on board. I like this bit with outside in the station. There's all these dogs threatening someone. All these angry-looking big dogs,
German shepherds, yeah.
German shepherd dogs, and there's this one cute little pup who's also barking with them too.
Well, and then it turns out the guy they're harassing gets taken off and shot, but they only were coming after him because he was carrying a bunch of dog biscuits. So, like, that almost feels like more like a political satire than a parody.
I mean, there's a lot of political jokes in here.
Yeah, but this one's like a level above the usual oppression is better or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So I like that.
Yeah, let him go with a warning saying, be careful where you go, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And be careful what you do because you're on our turf now. And then what looks like the train is pulling out of the station, but in reality, it's the station, which is on wheels, is moving away.
Yes, this is ridiculous. This is what we came for this movie for.
Mm-hmm. And the next, we get a very Indiana Jones looking map with the line going across, showing where the train's going. Mm-hmm. And then you have dots representing where Nick's going. He's crossing some streets, and it turns into Pac-Man.
Yep. You like that joke?
I did.
It worked for you. I'm glad.
So we have the opening ceremony of the cultural festival.
Yeah, the East German ambassador, I guess. Is he the ambassador? The president makes a speech in German. And I knew there's going to be German language jokes. I'm not going to be able to pick up on all of them. But I know that he said schnitzel like a lot, like every sentence.
Yeah. And then while this festival is going on, we have the British agent who's on top of the train is meeting with this blind guy who's selling party tricks. Yep. And I don't remember what this code phrase was, but all the code phrases they use are ridiculous.
Oh, I remember. I have it written down. It was like, who do you think is the best white basketball player? To which the guy says, there are no good white basketball players. Which I'm pretty sure Larry Bird was pretty good, but I don't know much about basketball.
Yeah. No.
So this scene is he's trying to get information out of him, but every time he does, the blind peddler gives him a prank.
It's not just that he's trying. Every time he's getting information, he's doing the prank. It's that someone comes by them, and so to make them not look suspicious and make it look like he's trying to sell him stuff, he does one of his pranks, like the squirting flour or the exploding cigar or what was the exploding shaving cream.
Yes, there are three. Humor comes in threes, or so I've been told.
It's the comedic rule of three. Although this one actually goes for a fourth at the end.
Yes.
So it subverts the rule of three.
I thought this scene was a little bit funny.
Oh, I liked it. And so apparently, but while the information that we get out of the scene is that the Germans are planning something, and that the British agent needs to look for Dr. Flamand because he's building a new weapon, and he also needs to find the head of the resistance, who's known as the Torch.
Yes. Yes.
And then we go back to our opening ceremonies, and there's the East German anthem, which is all about oppression.
Yeah, they're like, don't try to escape over the wall or you'll be killed. Which reminded me of the Kazakhstan national anthem in Borat.
From Borat.
Yes.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of things have stolen jokes from this.
Maybe, build on what came before.
Stolen or lovingly homaged.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So then we get this really brief scene. It barely even qualifies as a scene where we see Omar Sharif again, and he gets killed, revealed later he isn't killed, in a car crusher.
So this reminded me of two things.
Okay.
First, my wife, who's watching this with me, said it gave her traumatic memories of The Brave Little Toaster.
Oh, yeah. I blacked most of that movie out. Is there a part of the car crusher in it?
That's like the big traumatic thing where they're all singing this song about how they're junk, and like as it happens, each car is getting picked up and put into the car crusher and then made into a tiny cube. I
don't think I made it that far.
But it reminded me of Goldfinger.
Right. I figured there had to have been a James Bond movie where someone gets killed at a car crusher.
Yeah, they do. That's in Goldfinger. There's a big meeting with all the hoodlums over in the U.S. and one of them says he wants out, and so he leaves and Odd Job takes him to a car crusher and he gets crushed. Yeah.
Yep. I'm sure there are other non-James Bond movies where it happens too. I feel like it's very
given
common.
that this is a spy movie and it's post Goldfinger, so I kind of assume it's a reference.
Okay. But that whole scene is edited strangely. It comes in too fast and ends too fast.
That's true, yeah. It took me a second to realize, oh wait, that's the guy. What? Oh, what?
It's over. I feel like they maybe forgot to put it in, then put it in the last minute. So anyway,
So we next cut to a fancy ball. It's a reception for the cultural festival, and actually, I think one thing we didn't talk about is that this is Val Kilmer's first like credited film role.
yes, that's correct.
And so, like, I was watching, I was like, "Wow, he's so young here."
Mm-hmm.
And then, as I was watching the scene, I was like, "Wow, it's so white." And my wife thought I was talking about Val Kilmer. No, no, no. The decor is white.
Yes, and the clientele, but it is Germany. How much?
Yeah,
When did Top Gun come out? Because
'86.
so this is only 2 years earlier than that.
Yep, yep, yep.
So there you go. So when we first see Nick Rivers here, he has gum and he like sticks it onto somebody's plate or onto like a waiter's like serving tray.
Mhm.
As like, is the idea that he's like a jerk or he's like immature? I don't
No,
really
it's
know where they're going with that.
he's a stereotypical American.
Okay, so the place is really fancy, and he needs to get a jacket and tie in order to stay there. But then Wally's being tailored, and apparently they tailor him a whole tuxedo.
I thought it again. You're right. The humor is subverting expectations. Usually, when it's one of these things, then they end up they end up giving you this ridiculously oversized jacket.
Oh, really? Is that true in like other movies when you need a jacket?
Okay. Yeah, or it's something that looks ridiculous. Usually,
all right.
Usually, the loner jacket is oversized or looks terrible or something. Yeah.
So Nick getting tailored is like a background joke, while meanwhile some important dignitaries show up at the restaurant too.
Yeah. But yeah, so he gets his tuxedo, sits down at the table, and then we cut to outside of the hotel. There's a woman in a black cloak who's ends up meeting with the blind agent. And she gives her some information. And as they're says, wait in your hotel room. You need to find the torch. But as that's happening, the blind agent is shot, and she runs into the hotel.
Yes, and as the blind agent dies, he burns a Publishers Clearinghouse slip. And I don't think this is the first time that Publishers Clearinghouse has come up on this podcast.
No, we talked about it in.
I don't remember the episode.
Night and Day, because Tom
the
Cruise's parents won 5 times or something like that.
So I don't understand why he's burning it. I don't really want to spend any more brain power to figure it out.
But yeah, and back at the table, Nick has a note from his agent saying that I don't actually remember the joke.
He's like I have a sore throat or something.
Yeah.
But it turns out he's not reading it. The guy's actually saying it to him on a loudspeaker.
Saying, this doesn't make me feel better at all. And he ordered him the Ripple Blanc, which
turns out to be acidic and burns through his cup. And then he saves the woman who turns out to be named Hillary from being kicked out and probably being arrested by the police.
Yep. So they're dancing, and there were so many just like one-off gags here.
Mm-hmm. Like the dancing is really silly.
Yeah. Like my wife was like, "Wait, how does he know this dance?" Like, I don't know.
Well, I mean, that's just true of movies. Not even parody movies. People just come into dances and can do it.
Yeah. So, and then she realizes he's an American. She says, "Oh, my uncle's American. He escaped in a hot air balloon in the Jimmy Carter presidency."
It's like, what? And then she also says something I thought was very interesting, which says young people take their freedom for granted in the United States, which I absolutely agree with, but not just young people. I think people in general too. Having been recently to Germany and went to the Stasi prison and the Museum of Communism there, it really puts things into perspective. But we're not here to talk about that. We're here to laugh.
Yes. So one of my favorite gags here when it's one of my 2 favorite gags. I knew were coming, but it still made me laugh. Where the waiter is talking to them they're back at the table. The waiter's talking to them in German, and Nick, apparently none of the things got through to him from his thing on tape. Just I'm sorry, I don't speak any German. And then Hillary's like, "Oh, I happen to know a little German. He's sitting over there." And there's a short German guy in like lederhosen.
That was really good.
Yeah,
I think that was probably in the trailers. So she introduces herself as Hillary, and then the sort of maitre d', I guess, of the restaurant says, "We are very lucky to have a singer here. He's going to come up and perform."
It's the conductor.
Oh, of the
orchestra.
The mini orchestra they have there. Yeah. Yes. So he says, "We have a singer here who's going to come up and perform."
And it's a personal favorite of whichever higher ranking German official who was there before. It's not Nick. It's the guy who's sitting next to, who's like some sort of probably more of a classical singer, who's sitting next to the German official, East German official. How about if Nick it's him, and as the other singer's about to go up, Nick like sneaks on the stage and goes in and starts singing Tutti Frutti.
Yes.
And I gotta say, kudos to Val Kilmer because he can dance.
And he
Like
can
that
sing. He did all of
was
his
that
own
actually his own?
songs.
Okay, wow, I'm impressed. Then I wasn't sure if that was actually his singing.
Yes, it was. And they released all the music as like its own record.
Was it credited to
I
Val
think with the
Kilmer
movie.
or to Nick? What was his last name?
Nick Rivers. I think it
Nick
was
Rivers.
under the label of Nick Rivers, yes.
Nice. I like when they do that.
So this is the first and in my opinion probably the best musical number in the movie.
Okay.
I thought it was really good and it really worked for me. And it reminded me of Back to the Future.
Yes, because it wasn't. Wait, what year did Back to the Future come out? This was before Back to the Future.
Yes, by 1 year, 1985.
Yeah,
But
because
probably
there's
Back to the
the
Future is in development.
yeah. No, it's not like Back to the Future stole this. It's not. That's not what we're saying. But it's very similar because there's even. Well, I mean, the line is from Back to the Future, like watch me for the key changes or something like that. And there's something similar that Nick says. But I don't remember
Yeah,
what it
that's
was.
wild. I wonder if they added it kind of at the last minute as an homage to it.
I don't think so. But yeah.
Okay, so he's performing. Everyone loves it except for the old dignitary stuffed shirts who
Yeah, so
leave
they
in a huff.
leave. And
Mhm.
then when he's done with his performance, Nick goes back to the table and Hillary's gone.
Yep.
And Hillary's up in her hotel room and she gets surprised by the British agent who's there, who's like been smashed. The car is smashed into a cube around him.
Which is absurd, but that's what we came in for.
Yeah. And so, she finds out that they're trying to rescue her father and she needs to go to the ballet to find the torch.
Yes. So this seems to be a thing in spy movies where they go to the opera or the
Mhm.
theater,
Mhm.
and then something happens.
Yeah.
I can't think of any examples right now.
Well, I mean, actually, nothing happens in the Living Daylights, but they do go to the opera.
What
Quantum
about
of Solace.
Skyfall?
No, that's not. It's Quantum of Solace, where they're
Okay.
meeting at the opera.
Mhm.
Mission Impossible: Rogue Nation, again the opera.
Yep.
But I'm sure there's earlier ones. Like these are just ones that I can think of off the top of my head right now. But I'm sure there's earlier ones where it's like that sort of thing.
Yeah, there are probably tons. So
So
Nick
they're
is
going to
there.
watch the Nutcracker.
Right.
Yeah, Nick is in a box in the theater, and he sees Hillary across the way. She's meeting with a man, and she gets a gun pointed at her.
Mhm.
And so Nick sees this going on, and goes to rescue her. And while this is all going on, there's this ridiculous rendition of the Nutcracker with the male dancers with giant oversized cod pieces.
Yeah, I think that's like a river dance like joke.
Of just those background jokes is like the part where one of the ballerinas is jumping between the cod pieces.
Yeah, like stepping on the cod pieces as she jumps.
Yeah.
So I think this guy who's menacing Hillary is the same guy from before, the one who breaks the bridge on his back.
Ah, okay, I didn't catch that. All right, but yeah,
Mhm.
so Nick goes into their box, rescues her, and the man falls over the balcony and doesn't die, but is in critical condition.
Yes. So
And
they
so they
run
go to
away.
hide. Yeah, they run away. They hide in the prop room, which is not filled with props from the theater, but propellers. I like
Yes.
that gag.
It's very them. It's very Zuckers.
So
Hillary escapes.
Yep, she goes
Sorry.
out the window,
Mhm.
and the guards come in and arrest Nick. And we get.
Mhm.
I'm gonna keep saying I like this gag because I like most of the gags in this movie.
Okay.
But this one, he's he's got the classic, making chalk marks with on set, counting how long he's been there. He's got 20 of them, and
Mhm.
his agent comes in. And he's like, "My God, I've been waiting for 20 whole minutes."
Yeah. I think that was really good. I like that. And I think also it's a reference to some other Elvis movie where he's in prison.
Jailhouse Blues,
Probably, yes. I would have thought Jailhouse Rock, but
or
maybe
Jailhouse Rock, rather.
I don't know. I didn't look it up. I didn't look it up. I just presumed that's the name because that's an Elvis song.
You're probably right. Random gag. Do we want to talk about this?
Well, we've talked about adult subjects on this podcast before.
Yeah.
So it's under IMDb. This is the top quote
Really?
in IMDb,
Okay.
which is from Martin. He says, "Nick, I've tried everything. The embassy, the German government, the consulate. I even talked to the UN ambassador. It's no use. I just can't bring my wife to orgasm."
And so Nick pulls this box with what was it?
I have it written down too. It's like the anal something.
Exciter something. I
The
you know
anal
I don't
intruder. The anal intruder.
Thank
That's
you,
it.
thank you. All right, and this looked like a jackhammer with a rubber fist on it.
See, I like the quote from Martin, but then I think they should have just moved on.
Yeah,
I didn't like the anal intruder. I thought the joke went on too long.
Yeah.
You gotta let it go.
Martin leaves, says he'll do whatever he can to get him out of there.
There's nothing to worry about.
Yeah. And next we go to this priest reading Latin or speaking Latin as he's bringing Nick out of the prison cell. And I like that. I think they use this joke in like a scary movie later on, except with Japanese, where they just say any sort of Latin phrase. You go through, Veni Vidi Vici,
E pluribus unum,
pluribus unum,
habeas corpus,
and then it switches to pig Latin, which I liked.
I think it's been done in Monty Python. That's what sort of jumps to mind. So you're expecting Nick to be electrocuted, but then the priest is, and for no apparent reason.
Well, to show them they mean business.
Okay. But I'm also sort of like, well, it's a communist country, so priests wouldn't be too welcome there.
It's true. They say that Sergeant Kruger, who's the man who had been threatening Hillary, the sentence for murder is death by firing squad. So better hope that he's not dead. And so you get a phone call, and you only hear one side of it, and okay. Let me know if his condition changes. He's dead.
Yep, this is great. I found it strange that you think they would kind of spaced out a little bit. but whatever. So you know what this reminded me of was the spy who came in from the cold. Do you remember the part in the book where they send some thugs in to like rough him up, and he kills one, and they're like, "Well, you got to go to prison for murder now," and it's like total BS.
Yeah. Also, we find out that his manager. Well, Nick's going to be tortured, and his manager. I didn't catch whether he was dead or just in intensive care.
I think he's dead.
Impaled on a device.
I think he was electrocuted by the anal intruder.
Right, because they use a different voltage.
Yep. It makes total sense, I guess. Unlike some other things.
They bring in these two guys to torture him, and as he's being tortured, he has a dream about missing his exams in high school, which reminded me of Risky Business, which I saw recently.
Okay. Yeah, you and your Tom Cruise movies. It just reminded me of like an anxiety dream.
Yeah. Well, yeah. But I just thought it was funny because I think Risky Business was, 83, not too long, before this. And then, of course, those two end up working together in Top Gun. So that connection just made it more, relevant in my mind.
It's like him as the Tom Cruise role. I see what you're getting at.
But yeah, so he wakes up and says, "Oh, thank God, I'm here," as he's being tortured and not, missing his high school exams.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. And there's a meeting between two of the German, like the warden and the interrogator, and he says, "He won't crack. Should we use the Leroy Neiman paintings?"
Did you look these up?
The warden says, like, no, that we have to respect the Geneva Conventions.
Yes.
So I looked up Leroy Neiman. He was active from.
Did you just look up his paintings?
I did. They look fine.
They're terrible.
No, they're not terrible.
Yes, they are.
Oh, don't be a hater. They look okay to me, but that joke people are not going to understand.
No, these.
You really don't like them?
They're like splotchy paint. Yeah, I don't know. I think that. I guess I saw one with like Sylvester Stallone, and I was like, that looks ridiculous.
Do you know who Leroy Neiman was when they said it? Okay, you had to look it up too.
I had to look it up. Yeah. Anyways, so as this is all going on, Nick's trying to escape, and through one of these vents, he goes through a top one. He ends up out the bottom one. It's a Scooby-Doo style sequence where it's like running between different doors.
The toilet.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But then he ends up in a basement laboratory where Dr. Flamand is. Did you recognize Dr. Flamand?
No, but I looked him up on IMDb and found out who he was.
He's Alfred in the Tim Burton and Joel Schumacher Batman films, which means he played Alfred for Val Kilmer in Batman Forever.
Mm-hmm.
So just seeing those, it's like, hey, it's Batman and Alfred.
And then once you recognize him, it's hard to not see him as Alfred. Absolutely.
Yeah.
The Dr. Flamand gives him a huge exposition dump.
Yeah, so he was. This is not really relevant, but apparently he was working on a process to remove salt from seawater.
Well, it sets up a joke where he's like, that will mean everyone has enough salt for their loss and the rest of their lives.
But now the East Germans captured him, so he has to work on a weapon, the Polaris mine.
Yep.
And it's a magnetic mine that's super strong. It'll be attracted to whatever the nearest submarine is.
Well, actually, it's the reverse. Submarines are attracted to the mine, as demonstrated.
That's right.
10 seconds later, when Nick accidentally activates it and a sub bursts through the wall, dripping water as if it's been in water, which I thought was pretty amazing.
Yeah, and that causes a commotion, and the guards enter, and I liked how they put their Dr. Flamand and Nick put their hands up, and then the sub commander pops out of the sub and puts his hands up as well.
Yep, that was great. So then the other thing we get in this scene I wanted to mention briefly is we get what they call in screenwriting a time lock.
Oh,
where
yes, because it says it has to
Sunday.
be done by Sunday. Yeah.
Yes, that's right. And then the Sunday is on a calendar with a topless woman on it, just to show how unprofessional Dr. Flamand is.
Yes, and the plan is that they're going to put the Polaris mines in the Strait of Gibraltar.
Yes, where every single NATO submarine is going to be coming through that, because that makes sense.
Yeah, but so we cut back to the East German officials who say, "Oh, I just heard from High Command. Nick has to perform at the concert," and it's like, "But he's being executed right now." So they call a phone, and he's in front of a firing squad. And there's a phone ringing just on a pillar by itself. And no one seems to be getting it except for this old woman on a walker who's slowly moving towards it.
Yeah, that's great. Of course, this is a reference to movies, ticking clock, the tension.
At the last
and so
second,
on.
Yeah.
And then also behind her, the guards are like flipping their guns around. Like they're clearly not about to shoot him.
And so next we go to Nick performing at his concert. With all these crazed female fans. What it brought to mind for me was Beatles mania.
Yeah, of course. Beatlemania, but a little bit of Elvis mania too.
Oh, yeah, I guess so.
They're holding up signs that say, "We love you, Neek," spelled Neek.
And there's this one whole sequence where it's like one of the songs he's singing is how, he can't live without whoever, the song is about. And it goes through him with various methods of suicide, from a noose to an open oven to railroad tracks.
I thought that part was great. That was really funny.
Also, there's a thing with the flying guitar. He throws up his guitar and it just disappears. And then later, the guitar comes back down on wires. And you see Hillary's up in this, in the rigging, which I thought this was an open air concert. So where's the rigging?
Well, I didn't get the impression it was an open air concert.
Okay, for me that's what it looked like. But okay, maybe it was just me. So he leaves via flying guitar.
So there's one last thing I wanted to mention in the concert. I know it goes on for a long time. There's a lot of visual jokes we'll skip over, but I want to talk about the part where he pulls the audience member up on stage.
Oh yes, and she looks like she's like 12.
Yeah, it gets hard to tell the older we get, but she definitely didn't look 18. Now, I understand that this is something that performers do, especially like teen performers, but it was A, uncomfortable, and B, it went on for like a really long time.
Yeah, and then one part, she just faints, and then Nick doesn't even try to help her up. He just goes on with his performance. Yeah.
Okay, so yes, he does a really good escape with the flying guitar. I like that.
They leave out a side door, and keep saying this, but I like this gag where there's all these bikes there, and he gets them going like horses to go in a different direction.
And they even made the horses sound.
Yeah.
And they all just go. I thought that was great. That was like a joke in the YouTube
I loved
review.
it. Yeah, no, every joke I'm gonna bring up, I have to stop saying I like this joke because it's just gonna get repetitive. But and so they ride off in a different direction, and then we go back to the German officials who they have a messenger pigeon who has this tiny little aviator cap and goggles on, and I loved it. And so much so that I forgot what the actual message was.
I don't remember what the message is either. Anything with plot, it's like, who cares? Because the plot will just go as it does. So then they cut to Pigeon Park, where there's a giant statue of a pigeon. So I guess whoever made this movie also made Spies in Disguise, because they think anything involving pigeons is hilarious.
Well, okay, so the joke with the pigeon, did you get it?
Yeah, but we're getting to it.
Okay.
We're getting to it.
All right. It took me a second to figure it out. What's going on here?
Yeah, but it's just weird that they have a carrier pigeon right next to this big statue of a pigeon.
All right, yeah. Or the makers of Spies in Disguise were inspired by that scene.
Could be. So our Hillary and Nick are walking around the park and talking about the plot.
Yeah, so apparently her father is Dr. Flamand, and Nick reveals that, he saw him in the prison, and so, they need to take what Nick knows to the resistance. These German soldiers come by, and so Nick and Hillary kiss to fit in with all the other couples who apparently this is like a makeout spot.
Right.
And as this is happening, people come, like flying men fly down onto the statue of the pigeon and pee or poop on it.
Right, get it? Because pigeons pee and poop on us? Ha 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 ha.
Well, and on giant statues of men.
Oh, yes, that's also true.
Yeah,
that's probably more what they were going for, actually.
Yes,
yeah,
that's why I asked.
But then the pigeon statue also is like a big
Yeah.
poo. I was like, you pushed it too far. You should have stopped with the people peeing on it. I would have gotten it.
So they go to a Swedish bookstore, which is a front for the resistance.
Mhm.
And it took me a second to realize, oh, wait, they're speaking backwards. Oh, wait, this entire sequence is filmed backwards.
Yeah, it's sort of hard to tell until the books kind of go flying out from Nick's hand into the. It's like it has that weird jerky.
Yeah, and
animation.
then the dust gets blown back from a book. Also, the bookseller. Did you recognize him?
Yeah, it's Peter Cushing.
Yes, Grand Moff Tarkin himself.
But why do they have to mess up his face for that one not especially funny magnifying
I like that
glass?
gag. Well, I saw it coming, but I liked the gag.
Yeah, but then you have to deal with his like messed up eye for the rest of the scene.
But yeah, so they're told they need to go to a potato farm.
Yes.
They go up a fireman pole up to a place to hide. We get the flashback sequence. Hillary's telling Nick about her childhood. There's a flashback sequence to her being marooned on an island with a boy. Apparently, this is a whole plot reference to Blue Lagoon, which had
Except I'm pretty sure in that movie they're siblings. They're not strangers.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's why it's like very unsettling.
Oh, I thought it was unsettling.
I haven't actually seen it.
I have not. My wife has, and I thought it was supposed to be unsettling because Brooke Shields is like 15 when the movie's made, and she's very sexualized.
But that probably doesn't help.
Yeah. All right. So even more unsettling. Okay. So there's like a whole thing like it's definitely an homage to From Here to Eternity with them rolling around on the beach kissing. Yeah. And apparently Nigel, who's the boy, disappeared one day while he was out fishing. And then we get a little bit of Nick's backstory.
Yes.
Thankfully not in like a flashback, but apparently one day while he was with his mother, he got lost in the department store as a child and never saw his mother again. The cosmetics department took him in, and he wrote a jingle for the department store, and that's how he got famous.
Yes. So I would say that him being lost in a department store is like totally ridiculous, but it's the plot of another movie that I'm forgetting what it is now.
Okay.
This is really embarrassing. Where the mom takes her kid to like a park or like a festival and then leaves with Shazam. That's it. Shazam. Where the mom abandons the kid. So I was like, well, maybe it is a little bit believable.
I thought it was gonna make it was trying to make a Home Alone reference, and I was trying to wait. No, Home Alone came after this.
So I don't really understand this whole thing.
It's
like, why is it in the movie?
It's a random gag, is what it is.
Okay.
I think it's supposed to be like, well, because I think it's the main reason is because she said, I don't suppose you can understand anything like that, and he's like, no, and he tells a equally ridiculous story.
Okay, yeah, that's fair enough. And then he seduces her with a song that turns out to be a Macy's jingle.
They have a gag where they start kissing, and the camera pans away to a fireplace. But then they roll back into frame, and so they pan away to a different fireplace.
Yeah, they like those fireplaces in this movie.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I just like that as a gag, just because it's like back in the day with film censors, you couldn't show sex or even explicit say that, so they had to do it all implicitly.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it makes her an easy target for lampooning.
Mm. And then, so we have, there's this horse pulling a carriage. And, we think that the guy who's on the cart is the one singing, but it's the horse singing, which I liked. And
well, I thought it was just I think what they call non-dialectic sound, where it's just a soundtrack. There's a need to be a singer.
Well, but then they zoom in on the horse. And
but then it turns out to be a horse, right? Right.
Yeah, and so Nick and Hillary are hiding in the hay. They get out. The horse seems a little sick. Is coughing. Oh, no, he's just a little horse.
Ugh. So bad.
You might have to edit out all my laughing because it's going to be like 50% me just laughing at the jokes.
That's all right. I'm glad they worked for you. So they go into the potato farm.
Owned by Albert Potato.
Yes. And they meet the resistance. It's a bunch of tough, really tough looking guys.
Who are French for some reason.
No, not for some reason, because they're the resistance. The resistance is
The
always
French resistance in East Germany.
Right.
All right.
Can you imagine if in Star Wars, the resistance, everybody was French?
That would have been great.
Yeah, it would have been hilarious.
Yeah, but so, and they go to see they want to meet the Torch, and it turns out the Torch is the guy from the beach, Nigel.
And he's even
Still
dressed
shirtless.
the same. Yeah, he's dressed the same, and he has like oil on him. It's great.
And Nigel thinks there's a mole in the resistance. Also, all the French resistance have French words for names.
I wish that IMDb had all the names. They didn't went too fast to write them down, but they were like.
I liked Déjà Vu.
Yeah, Déjà Vu is a really good one.
Chocolate mousse, croissant.
Yeah. They just come so fast and furious, and everyone was funnier. So for some reason, jokes about Germans don't really hit for me as much as jokes about the French.
See, also, Chocolate Mousse was in Raiders of the Lost Ark. He's not the main pirate, but he's one of the other ones. He looks pretty much the same. I think he even has like 2 bandoliers crossed on his chest, and he has the same laugh. So once I heard that, I was like, that guy sound that, or to quote a different Harrison Ford movie, I know that laugh.
I like the part where he eats his cigar. It reminds me of Sergeant Abrams in Aliens, how he looks like he's always about to eat his cigar.
Also, so we have, Hillary and Nick are trying to talk, and Hillary's like, I'm sorry, this all, wish I could explain. It's like, and Nick goes on basically entire plot. I'm not the first guy who had this happen to him.
So IMDb has it if you want me to read the whole thing.
Yeah, go for it.
Listen to me, Hillary. I'm not the first guy who fell in love with a woman that he met at a restaurant who turned out to be the daughter of a kidnapped scientist, only to lose her to her childhood lover who she last saw on a desert island, who then turned out 15 years later to be the leader of the French underground.
If you haven't been paying attention, is actually a good recap for everyone.
Yeah, for those of you who came in halfway through the movie. So that was funny, but then they ruin it.
No.
I didn't like it. I didn't like it. So what happens is Hillary's like, I know it's some bad movie, and then they both turn and look at the camera.
The line is, it all sounds like it's out of some bad movie. And they very slowly turn to look at the camera. Which Kevin Smith stole for Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. So
I'm glad that you liked it. But we get it. Okay, we get that he's talking about the movie. You don't need to keep it going. I would have preferred it if it just ended after his thing and he just moved on like nothing.
I like that. I think I like that gag because I saw it first in Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, where it's a running gag, and I think I even used it as there was like a a film I made as like part of what was it? I think it was a part of a gag like for this thing I did for the Filipino student organization in college, and I used that same gag. So it has a soft spot because it was a ridiculous concept. And I said, "Wow, this all sounds like out of a terrible movie." Look at the camera. All right. Well, I'm happy that it worked for you. Back to the movie. Nick is going to be escorted back to town to get away while the French resistance does their thing. There's a couple of visual gags like Chocolate Mousse loading his Tommy gun like it's a musket from the Revolutionary War. Nick drinks gasoline, spits it out, and then Chocolate Mousse drinks it happily and laughs because he's just such a tough guy. And apparently, we find out that Nigel had been, back on the island, was picked up by a passing freighter, but and they tried to make them go back for him, but they wouldn't. If we believe him, and then Latrine shows up, and everyone goes, Latrine! He was followed back to base by some troops. There's a gunfight ensues. A lot of visual gags here with breaking the windows to fire through the window. I like the tic-tac-toe one. Yeah, the tic-tac-toe is my favorite as well. But they eventually managed to fight off the attack and reconvene at Der Pizza House. Der Pizza House. Yep. They realize that Nick is the only one who knows the layout of the prison. They have to convince him to go, to help guide them through. He doesn't want to. And then Latrine shows up again. Yes. Right. Well, it's a running joke where he shows up and he's successively more beaten up than he was in the past. And so he has a messenger pigeon. Apparently, the Germans know that they're going to break out Flamand, and so they realize, because they just talked about just then, that Nigel says that the traitor has to be someone at this table, and Nigel suspects Nick. And while this is going on, there's these two teenage girls who come up to Nick and say, "Aren't you Nick Rivers, the famous singer?" He's like, "No, you must have this thinking for someone else. I'm Mel Torme." Did you know who Mel Torme was?
Is he a real person? I thought they just made it up.
No, it's a real person.
Okay, who is he then?
He's a singer, but I'm trying to remember what he actually... Oh, he composed the Christmas song, usually known as Chestnuts Roasting on Open Fire. He's a jazz singer.
Okay. He blows off these two fans, which is like, I feel like it should go into the lore of like, you harass a celebrity and then they blow you off, then you go on the internet and talk about how mean they are.
Anyway, so when Nick is suspecting, or Nigel is suspecting Nick, he's like, "How do we know he's not Mel Torme?" And so they go into another musical number.
Yes, which is like something out of Grease, because it's like a 1950s diner kind of thing. Everyone's dressed like it's in the 1950s and so on.
And then the end of the thing, Albert Potato is like, "This is not Mel Torme."
Yep. So then the mission is on, I guess. They're not worried about who the traitor is. They're on a C-47 paratrooper plane that has U-Haul written on the side.
And they're all jumping out of the plane. Someone has a, what's that thing?
Duty-free bag.
Thank you. The duty-free bag. And as they're jumping out, Hillary and Nick are having a heart-to-heart conversation mid-air.
Yep.
Which struck me as very Casablanca-esque.
Yeah, well, I know you haven't seen Airplane, but they love doing this in Airplane.
Okay.
Is the two romantic leads having this like very emotional conversation while in the background something funny is happening.
And so, yeah, as they're going down, and then they kiss, and the camera pans away to a fireplace, which also has a parachute on it.
Well, sure. Why else would it be there?
So they land, they're outside the prison, and they see a bunch of cows. Apparently these cows are the key to the plan. They're going to use the cows to infiltrate, to get inside. And there's a good gag with, he starts off just drawing on the ground with a stick. And then as it goes, there's a progressively more detailed model.
Yes, which just happens to be outside the infiltration site. And then, capped off by the train, as you said.
Yeah.
So they have this really good cow costume. Like, really good.
Because it's just a cow with boots on.
Yes. Well, the boots kind of blow it, but yeah.
I liked the cow with boots. It was just because it took me a second. I was like, "Is that just a real cow?" And I was like, "No, yeah, you're right. That's definitely just a real cow."
It gets pretty hard to tell.
Nigel and one of the others. I lost track of which member of the resistance this was.
It's like Froys or something like that.
Okay, I wasn't sure if it was. I kept mixing that one and Deja Vu up.
Yes, or it might be one of them
because they look exactly the same.
Could be.
Anyways, so those two are going in. They're in the cow costume. They're going to go disable the electric fence. Everyone else is waiting outside, and And so once the fence is disabled, the other people cut the fence and climb the wall.
Yes.
And they knock out a few guards. And they take in, it's the classic, the Chewie scenario. They take the uniforms and pretend they're escorting someone as a prisoner.
Yep, it's so old, and yet never seems to get old at the same time.
Yeah, and there's a good goose stepping gag, because they're in Nazi uniforms, they're goose stepping, and as they're goose stepping, they're kicking over stuff, their boots are flying off. Yeah,
they're goose stepping way higher than you're supposed to. But then Nigel reveals himself to be the traitor.
Yeah. And so he makes the cow costume go back to the shed and to set off the alarm. And as he's doing so, he gets assaulted by a bull.
So a couple things. We skipped this, but he said he wanted to be in the back, which didn't make any sense, because why would he want to be in the back? But now it's because he's going to pull the gun on the guy. That's harder to do when you're on the front. And then earlier, a calf came up and wanted to...
I was going to skip over this.
Well, see, I thought the cow was going to try to do what the bull does later.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Okay, we don't need to talk about that anymore.
Yeah.
So they meet the doctor. There's a great joke where he's like, "One more day, I would have finished my tunnel."
It cuts to, is this the Lincoln Tunnel? I think there's a Lincoln Tunnel.
I think so, yes.
Yeah. And outside, Hillary
Mhm.
is she's cold, so she puts on the coat that Nigel had been wearing, and she gets she's about to sneezes into a handkerchief she found in a pocket, and a pigeon flies out.
I
And
thought it was like 4 pigeons.
no, the 4 pigeons are inside the coat. There was
Oh,
only one
okay.
inside the handkerchief.
Oh,
So
I
she
see, I
realizes
see.
there's all these pigeons here. He's the spy because he's been sending all the. But unfortunately, none of them had the cute aviator cap and goggles. I was disappointed.
Well, I'm disappointed that you're disappointed.
But yeah,
So she's
so
like, "Oh my
Nigel,
god, Nigel's the traitor." She figures it out.
yeah, and Nigel comes out to capture her.
He's
Reveals that
walking funny.
oh yeah, reveals that the boat that had picked him up was Russian because he says comrade.
Yep.
As this is going on, the other team gotten outside, and we see Latrine show up again.
Yeah, there's a couple good jokes where it shows the Germans moving their vehicles out, but they're just going in a circle.
One of the trucks is going after them, but Chocolate Mousse shoots out the tires, and
Mhm.
it goes into a Pinto and just touches it and explodes.
Was that
Because
some kind of joke about how Pintos explode?
yeah, that's it basically.
Okay. Did you like know that before
Yeah,
you watched the
I
movie?
did. But I'm a uh, fan of 80s. I believe that was an 80s, 70s and 80s reference about Pintos, and that yeah, they're just terrible and would break down or explode. Well, not I don't think they literally exploded, but they usually broke down and they were just bad cars.
Okay. So Nick steals a motorcycle and goes after
Yeah, this is
Hillary.
a great escape.
It also felt like Indiana Jones a little bit.
It did, but like him on the motorcycle in the leather jacket, that is a straight Steve McQueen Great Escape reference.
Okay.
And
I
then he
like that
does an
movie.
evil Knievel jump. I have
Mhm.
not seen it actually. It's on my list. I have it. I just haven't got around to watching it.
Do you think it would
Maybe,
qualify as a spy movie? We could do it for the podcast.
maybe. I mean, I'll look up a little bit of the plot just to see if any of them are actually spies.
Okay. Okay. So then he
But you're
catches
right.
up with the
He catches
truck.
up, and this is where it gets into real Raiders of the Lost Ark.
But the thing is, this is what I was wondering. So first of all, I looked it up, and Raiders came out in 1981, so it
Yeah.
almost certainly was a reference to it.
Oh
But
yeah.
do you think that the Raiders was a reference to World War II movies?
Oh yeah. Oh definitely. Not even World War II. It's a reference to westerns
Okay.
where you would instead of a truck, it would be they jump from the horse to the carriage
Okay.
being drawn by horses.
Yeah, but I
Yeah.
thought a truck specifically would show up in a World War II movie.
Yeah, yeah, but no, that's what the Raiders of the Lost Ark. And in fact, I believe it's one of the Zorro movies, like the 40s Zorro movies. There's a couple of Zorro serials where they do the exact stunt where he goes underneath the carriage and comes back out.
Nice.
Yeah.
So
Anyways,
they're fighting. I thought the fighting was really exciting here.
and then they start fighting over the radio. I like that gag.
But then they fall off a bridge into water.
And they have an underwater fight. I was actually expecting there to be like a Thunderball reference.
Were you disappointed that there wasn't?
No, but I was expecting. But then I was pleasantly surprised at what it did turn out to be, which is an underwater bar fight.
Underwater Western bar fight.
Right. With like stools and a bunch of people playing poker and a full-on bar and
So this joke did go on a long time, but it worked for me mostly because it was gradually ramping up.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they committed to it. That is until the end. I guess he beats up Nigel. He doesn't kill him because
I mean,
I guess they
if you
can't
think
drown.
about it,
No, they can't drown.
that's true. I don't know. Well, he beats up Nigel and knocks him out, and
Yeah.
and
He puts his hat on. He puts a cowboy hat on, and they play the Bonanza theme. And that was like, okay, I got it that it's supposed to be a Western. Thank you.
So, Hillary comes back on the motorcycle, which leads me to a question. How far back was the motorcycle when he fell off of it?
Don't worry about
it. So she finds Nick as he's coming out of the water.
Mm-hmm.
And you go to the plane, which is taking Dr. Flamand and them out of the country back to America. Plane's about to leave. And this is all very Casablanca feeling to me.
Yep.
And Nick and Hillary make it just on time on the motorcycle. Hillary doesn't want to leave, but they convince her to go to America. It'll be too dangerous for her there. And so she gets on the plane with Nick, and they fly away off into the sunset. Or sunrise.
Sure, but it's an extremely sudden ending.
Yeah, but yeah, that was the movie.
Yes, it was.
And I mean, I guess if you take out all the a lot, because a lot of the movie is sight gags. If you take away a lot of the sight gags, it's pretty quick to wrap up.
Sure.
But not to give away the rating, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. Yeah.
Good.
So should we go into?
Do we have any spy fact versus fiction?
I don't have anything other than the fact that, we're pretty sure that. Well, not pretty sure. Yeah, the East German, army did not wear Nazi uniforms.
Yeah, I when it comes to these fictional movies, I don't really ever expect there to be spy fact versus fiction,
or at least the more over the top ones.
Totally.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, shall we transition into favorite quotes?
Sure. Let me get mine. All right. You want to go first?
Sure. So the one that I was going to say was, well, let me know if there's any change in his condition. Click, he's dead. But since we already talked about that,
all right.
I think I will instead switch to, it's hard to pick one.
It is, because there's before we were recording, I was going through the quotes on IMDb. And I just started laughing as I read each and every one of them.
Dr. Flamand, well, young one, I had the secret police break into my house. They tore me from my family, ransacked my laboratory, and brought me to this dungeon. Nick, that sucks.
Well, my favorite quote is, "For as long as a single man is forced to cower under the iron fists of oppression, as long as a child cries out in the night, or an actor can be elected president, we must continue the struggle."
Yeah, that whole speech was good. None of these were good enough to be on their own, but I liked hearts of the, we'll hear your music in the hearts of the people on elevators everywhere. She's like, people change, hairstyles change, interest rates change.
Fluctuate, yes.
I mean, she's like, and Scarecrow, I'll miss you most of all.
I forgot to write that down. I like that gag. And I was waiting for it too. Also, at the very end, we see what's his face. Latrine is in what do you call
like a box or something?
No, it's not supposed to be standing upright. It's one of those with you have two men carrying a person. What are those called?
A stretcher.
A stretcher. He's in a stretcher basically, but it's stood up.
It didn't look like a stretcher to me.
It's like an old style stretcher where it's literally just cloth between two sticks.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right, well, that is it for our quotes. So it is time for our ratings on a scale of 1 to 10 martinis, 1 being an absolutely terrible spy movie and 10 being a really, really good best spy movie ever. How would you rate Top Secret? As I said, I had very high expectations because I had seen the other things these guys had did. Most of the jokes didn't actually land, I didn't think. I had a lot of sensible chuckles more than actual laughing.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the movie holds up pretty well, and I would consider it to be a good movie. So I will give it 7 out of 10 martinis.
All right, and I would say I'm on the same wavelength as you, except I laughed a lot more. If you couldn't tell from this podcast, I thought it was pretty hilarious.
Good.
So I'm gonna give it a 7.5.
Oh, I thought you'd go higher, given that.
No, this. Well, I also had to think about it as a spy movie. There's not a lot of spying. It's just a really fun, entertaining movie. And,
I suppose that's a good point.
there are other things that I've rated lower but which also didn't have much spying, but I also just didn't enjoy those as much. So this one, maybe the spying wasn't necessarily there, but it was entertaining. I
suppose we've established that we rate these movies based on them as spy movies rather than just them as movies for what they're trying to do. So there you go.
But I mean, I like that it played with, spy tropes.
Yes, absolutely. And compared to the other comedies that we've done, such as The Spy Who Dumped Me and Night and Day, I felt like it was better than those.
All right.
Thank you for joining us. You can find us on social media at the Spy-Fi Guys under Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Until next time, I'm Zach.
I'm Christian.
And we are the Spy-Fi Guys, signing off.
Thank you for listening to the Spy-Fi Guys. If you enjoyed our podcast, please be sure to give us a 5-star rating on iTunes. The theme song from this podcast is Mistake the Getaway by Kevin MacLeod from Incompetech.com. Licensed under Creative Commons by Attribution 3.0. Films, books, and television shows reviewed by our podcast are the intellectual property of their respective copyright holders, and no infringement is intended.
This is a personal podcast. Any views, statements, or opinions expressed in this podcast are personal and belong solely to the participants. They do not represent those of people, institutions, or organizations that the participants may or may not be associated with in a professional or personal capacity unless explicitly stated. Any views or opinions are not intended to malign any religion, ethnic group, club, organization, company, or individual.
You can find our podcast on social media at The Spy Fi Guys on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.